So, it's question time on Night Watch, gentle listeners. I see by the old clock on the wall that it's very nearly Father's Day. So, tonight's question is, what is a father? Ring! We have a caller. And the caller says that a father is altruistic. Bzzzt. Too bad. Thanks for playing, though. Every parent wants something in return. Love. Loyalty. Nothing is free.
Welcome back, friends.
Welcome back.
It's time for another episode, a Forever Night episode. Forever Night Season 2, Episode 10, Father's Day. And this was a really good episode. We were engaged. We were amused. This is a good episode. I mean, we had, I like the cult episode just fine. Faithful Followers. It's okay. And then we immediately followed up with Undue Process, which is like a pretty heavy episode. And then we have this one where it's not light, but I think we finally get some of the character interaction that we've been really dying for a couple of episodes.
The LaCroix Nick dynamic that you remember, that you want to go back and experience.
Yeah, you know what we haven't really had in a while is just a good, this is Nick as a vampire, Nick trying to deal with life as a vampire, Nick trying to not make it personal when it is very personal. It is very personal. But before we get into it, hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Matt.
And this is Come In 81 Kilo.
A Forever Night podcast.
That's never going to not be amusing. All right. Yes, I think this is definitely remember we talked about in Undue Process the fact that he didn't make that personal at all. He just kind of remembered a time that he had been the victim of like a citizen group of vigilante justice, and he offered us no opinion on the matter. It was kind of like, well, I handled it poorly. It wasn't like, well, they should not have accused me, but also I shouldn't have accused them. And like an eye for an eye makes the world blind situation. It was more like yeah, that happened to me once.
Yeah, and I don't want anyone else to experience that injustice.
Right. Not even. No, that would have implied he had voiced an opinion, and he didn't at any point voice an opinion about it. He was just like, yeah, I see where they're coming from. Because that happened to me one time. Hey, Natalie, want to hear about the time I got hung? She was like, God, stop talking to me about how you're hung. And he was like, all right, fine. Even though they weren't having the same conversation.
Yeah.
Just like you made a crack about it. But in this one, shit gets personal again. And we get LaCroix. And we get Jeanette. We have not seen
the whole gang's here.
We have not seen his vampire family in a hot minute. I mean, we saw Jeanette in Faithful Followers because we had the part where Natalie went to talk to Jeanette. Jeanette was getting the vag tattooed on her arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. A rose. Sorry. It's a rose. It's a vag. And she was like, really? Do we give a shit that he's in a cult? I'm pretty sure that tracks. So I don't care. But we haven't really seen LaCroix. And this is a good one with LaCroix. We get a lot more about their relationship.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of background development on who they are, who they see themselves as.
Yes, like what role LaCroix feels like he has in Nick's life, and a little bit about why he can't seem to let Nick go. because we've gotten a lot of like, oh, LaCroix is such an asshole. LaCroix plays these mean old jokes, mean old LaCroix, but we haven't gotten like, why does LaCroix do what he does? What motivation does he have? Honestly, it's been 800 years of him just being pissed at Nicholas the vast majority of the time. Why has he never given up? What in LaCroix because I feel like LaCroix as a character, there's literally nothing that we have seen so far that makes me believe he's so committed to Nicholas. He's willing to dedicate the better part of 1,000 years to breaking him back into being a cool vampire. It's literally like they had a honeymoon decade where they were pillaging and murdering together, and he's just been trying to get back to that for the next 790 years.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So we start with
what's our crime opening?
It's kind of a crime opening. We have a murder, but the murder is really secondary in this episode because what we open with is the Constantine crime family.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
It's the great granddaddy Constantine at the head of the table, kind of preparing his, I don't know, board. Is it like a board of directors? If it's
the board of directors
family
of his
business?
mob. I don't know. His the other mob associates, I guess. Maybe like the heads.
His lieutenants.
His lieutenants. All right, let's go with that. The heads of, like, he delegates, right? He can't control all of Toronto. It's probably divided up. But my favorite part about this scene is the mob mansion. This whole house is so 90s. I feel like you could distill it and bottle it and sell it at Forever 21 right now.
The nostalgia.
It is the glass brick wall. The whole front wall is glass brick. And then there's this flat trim that looks, I think it's really lightly stained wood.
Well, that's on David's house.
Yeah, this is on David's house. We don't get to see Constantine's exterior. We only see interior shots of where he is. Yeah, but we get a lot of the exterior of this, quote, let's call it the mob mansion, because honest to God, that's what it looks like. If you drove past that, you'd be like, oh, that's a mob house.
As the sole heir of the Constantine family business, David and his family have a really nice house
for the 90s. Yeah. It reminds me of, so in The Lost Boys, there's a scene where the mom goes to visit not Sam, but the head vampire's house, the guy who owns the video rental store.
Yes.
Yeah. And it is like 90s. It's got a pillar with neon lights wrapped around it that like the lights go up and down. And there's like, anyway, it's so like late 80s, early 90s. And that's exactly what this house is. I will not continue on this track because I could go on forever. And I'm going to revisit it because every time we go into the house, we get new and a more amazing 90s-ness.
We get another peek at the whole aesthetic on the interior and exterior of the house.
I just want to know, what was the obsession with glass bricks in the 90s? Because in the first season, we get a lot of like Stone Tree's office, and I think maybe it's just in Dark Knight, but Stone Tree's office has like a glass brick wall.
Well, glass bricks at the time were a little new.
Yeah.
And they are a structural material.
Does anyone still use glass bricks? Are they still coasting on that 90s money?
I don't know.
I
don't know if anybody still does, but a structural engineer told me that the glass bricks structurally are as strong as regular bricks.
Right.
So you can build like a load-bearing wall out of these glass bricks.
Clearly, because this guy has one.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Because they let light through.
Ba, ba, ba.
That was the attractive thing, is it is a fairly cheap building material. It's structural. It's a load-bearing material.
Yeah.
And it lets light through.
I mean, no shade on glass bricks. I think they're fine. I just feel like you don't see them unless it's from the 90s, and then people are always like, oh, this is so dated.
Yeah.
I mean, they are, I guess. But anyway, we digress about the bricks. But really, this whole opening scene is just Granddaddy Constantine trying to tell everybody he's handing it off to his great-grandson David Constantine, and David being like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And he ends up getting picked up by a guy in a tracksuit.
Oh, man, this tracksuit.
And
okay, so this is Jimmy? Something Lamar.
Yeah, Lamar. Maybe. Yeah, because he gets killed like immediately. So we don't really even need to know his name. But
he's like I don't know if he's a cop or if he's an informant or something.
Yeah, he's someone who's trying to take down the family. And he thinks David is
helping the cops do it.
Yeah, he thinks David's gonna
turn on
the family. So he's gonna pick him up and he's gonna bring him into the station because this is their best shot of David getting his family out of this business. Because he doesn't want it. And my favorite part about this is he is fleeing his mob boss family because they are ruthless killers. And the guy's like, do you want to bring your wife and kid? And he's like, nah, they'll be fine.
Well, no, Jimmy says they're not after your family. They're after you.
Right.
They won't bother your wife and child.
And he just goes with it. He's like, fair. Yeah.
But Jimmy has an ulterior motive because Jimmy is working with Skanky on delivering.
He's not working with. He's just working in general. I don't think he's related to Skanky. I mean, I don't think Skanky's part of this.
That's what Cohen says.
Oh, well, maybe they're working specifically on the Constantine
Skanky had
problem.
kind of like casually mentioned to this guy, hey, if you could get me David Constantine, that'd be awesome.
Well, we know that Cohen has been after the Constantine family since she was a rookie.
And so I think Skanky had just, proposed this arrangement with Jimmy. And Jimmy was like, I got you, fam.
Yeah, I got you, fam. I don't know, because we actually get less Skanky in this episode than we do LaCroix.
Right. And I think this is the Cohen's reference to Skanky arranging this is more the justification for Nick and Skanky to
be a part
lead
of
up on this.
Oh, heck yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's the only reason they mentioned the Skanky Jimmy link. And Skanky's like, don't depend on Jimmy. He's not. Yeah, he's not great.
Well, we wrap up the cold open with somebody whispers in great granddaddy Constantine's ear.
Oh yeah, after David and Jimmy get away.
Right, and he's like,
there is no harder day in a father's life than the day he must discipline a child. But love demands sacrifices from us all. The family must be protected.
The hardest day is when a father must discipline his child, but the family must be protected. And then it's like, ba-dum. We go right into the opening. Like, okay, this is going to be good. And then we come back, and I think this scene is hysterical. We laughed so much during this episode, let me tell you. But, this is the part where Skanky is trying to get Sunday off because Cohen has realized that he has been cumulatively late so much he needs an additional 6-hour shift to make up for all the time he has not worked. I guarantee you Skanky's worked plenty of overtime. He's partners with Nick.
Right.
But maybe
they're always making cracks about how much overtime Skanky works.
Right.
Maybe
and he's like, I'm
gonna flex some hours out.
Yeah, but Sunday is Father's Day.
Eddie, he's got a trip planned up to the cabin.
He's like, I just want to go to the cabin. I want to hang out with the wife and kid. I want to, see my daughter before she grows up and leaves the house. And so he's trying to get everybody to do it. And even though he's covered for other people, they're not willing to cover for him. Why are they in the locker room? What are they putting on? Because Nick walks around the corner and he's buttoning up his shirt. Was he wearing something else when he arrived at work? You know what I imagine? Here's what I imagine. Nick has this, hang on. Nick has a locker, and when he opens it, it's just a line of vests.
Different vests.
Not bulletproof vests. Oh, no. Just decorative vests. Because He is wearing black pants and he's buttoning up this black shirt. And he's like, Skanky, I'll work. He's like, we're off Sunday. And Skanky's like, no, you don't understand. Cohen's making me work. And Nick's like, well, I'll cover for you. It's fine. Like, what am I going to do? Spend time with my family? And Skanky's like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like, what do I owe you? And he's like, nothing. That's what our partner's for. It's fine. And then when they walk out, he has on his like tartan vest, his like his khaki patterned vest. We've seen it a couple of times. It's like flat bottomed. So he literally went in the locker room to put his vest on. Not a bulletproof vest, just a vest. Because what else is he doing in there? What does he keep in his locker? It's not like he's a uniform.
He has a commuting vest.
Okay.
And he has a work vest. And so at home, he puts on his commuting vest and he drives into work. Then he goes to the locker room
He takes
takes off his commuting vest and puts on his work vest.
What are they doing in the locker room? Doesn't make any sense.
It's a situation where Skanky would have easy access to a lot of his peers.
I know why they are in the locker room narratively. I just don't know what the justification other than that is, because we know Nick takes his gun home because we've seen him come home with his shoulder holster on.
He's not like a beat cop. He's not putting on a uniform.
No.
He's a detective, so he doesn't have to wear his uniform. He just has to wear his gun and his badge somewhere.
Yeah, I swear to God, he's got backup vests, and that's all that's in there. But you know what he got? And I think we should all just take a moment and be thankful for? A haircut.
Woo!
He finally got a haircut. Somebody probably took him aside and they were like, Gare, listen, I know you're rocking the curls, man, but can we go a little more profesh? We're heading into mullet territory. And Garrett was like, all right, fine. Fine. And he went and got a haircut. Thank you, Jesus. But he's going to cover for Skanky. And he's like, but not for your electric lumbar pillow. Like,
right. Which I feel like John Kapelos improvised that line. Like he was just, throwing stuff out there. They probably had like 20 takes of him going through the locker room. Yeah. Propositioning people to.
Yeah. Like the rumored NC-17 cut of Mrs. Doubtfire. Because Robin Williams kept going off so much. Yeah. So they walk out having put on their non-commuting vest and suit jacket. And this is when Cohen walks up to them and she's like, guys, David Constantine is coming in to rat out the family. We're going to take down the entire Constantine family who's been in power in Toronto for like 100 years. And Skanky's like, cool. Sounds great. Really, the amount of excitement about this is pretty low because
probably Skanky hearing that, hey, somebody's bringing in David Constantine. We're gonna, he's gonna turn over on his family.
Yeah,
Skanky's like, all right, and that's not my gig.
Well, let's see.
I don't work.
I think it's a we'll believe it when it happens situation. Yeah, because now they have to go meet him. They have to go meet this guy and David Constantine. And so they get in the car and they're driving. And this is when Skanky is answering questions for his, for Jenny's questionnaire. Cause he goes, what is that word? It's like selfless.
This is the real story of the episode is answering the question, what is a father?
What is a father? Yes. This is absolutely the theme of this episode. What is a father? And he asks Nick, well, what's that word? It means like selfless. It starts with an A. And Nick's like, altruistic. And he's like, yes, altruistic.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah, because he's answering a questionnaire for Jenny's school for Father's Day. And they arrive at the meeting, and the car is empty and abandoned. The door's open. There's nobody there.
Jimmy's car.
And of course, Nick just walks down the alleyway and is like, oh, yeah, there's a dead guy up there because I smell the blood. Tracksuit is dead.
Oh,
no. Yeah. And then, we cut immediately to Natalie's climbing down a ladder. Like, she went up there to inspect him in situ, and now she's coming back down. And she's all better. Remember that part, like, last week
where she was really
when
having
she
a
was
rough
really
time.
upset. Yeah, because her goddaughter died. Well, that's all gone. Sorry, it's all done now. Yeah, she's like,
Natalie's good at compartmentalizing.
she must be, because she's lost 2 family members so far, and honestly, she's still she's coping really, really well. And she's basically like, he got shot twice, 20, 30 feet away. Really great marksman.
Twice in the back, once in the head.
Yeah, so he was executed profesh style. And Nick is like, oh, okay, because she says, David is running away. Everybody's after him. He's going to be lucky to get out of here alive. Like everyone, the Constantine family knows he was going to rat them out, and now they're after him. And Nick is like, I remember a time that my father chased me out of a city.
David's story resonates so deeply with Nick.
We go immediately into a flashback, and it is Granddaddy Constantine when he was young, and he opens up this shipping container, and inside is Nick.
Surprise.
So Nick shipped himself across the Atlantic and got picked up by Constantine, and Constantine gives him this glass bottle with blood in it.
Quote,
and if
blood.
I have a complaint about Forever Night, it is I wish they had tried just a little bit harder on the blood. And this might have been a ratings restriction thing. Like, we might not have been able to be too graphic.
Yeah, like a overly realistic depiction of blood.
Yeah, it really could have been. I mean, so you've seen The Shining, the scene where they have the blood that comes out of the... Mm-hmm. They almost didn't get that through. They had to, it was a different color when they showed it to the ratings board, and then they switched it to red. Because there was a lot of, taboo about showing realistic blood on television at this point. And that might have been why we chose to go with, it's a dark red liquid. That's...
Okay, my headcanon is, and I've explained this to you before.
Yeah.
That they treat the blood like when Nick has the blood in the barrel.
Right. Yes.
They add vampire blood to it, or they have some process to preserve the blood, and it makes it more liquidy.
His Kirkland Light blood barrel. Yes.
So that's what I think is happening is there's blood.
Sure.
But then there's the preserved bottled blood.
Yeah.
That lasts indefinitely.
Right. And this is human blood, because he says, I have a contact at the hospital, so I can get you anything you want. And I mean anything.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. And then he asks him, will you be followed? And the look Nick gives him, I fucking died. He was like, God, don't even fucking get me started. Will I be followed? You have no fucking idea how hard I will be followed. I died. The look was hysterical because it said everything, which was have you met LaCroix? Trust me, you'll understand when you do.
Yeah,
and you're gonna, because he's gonna be here.
If you haven't already, you're gonna meet him.
You're gonna meet him. And then we go back to the present. And you can tell this is modern day, super modern day, because their address number
is
a neon sign.
Fluorescent.
Surrounded by glass bricks. It's like a 3-sided wall with an angled number. I think it's 80 or 90 neon sign in the middle of it.
So that way from the road, looking at the house, you have this glowing numbers.
I tell you what, I have delivered
in the front yard.
I have delivered pizza. And finding people's address numbers is hands down the hardest part of the job. And I would have loved to see a large glowing neon sign with somebody's address number on it. But Skanky and Nick go to the house to talk to David's wife because, of course, she's still at the house with their son. And Skanky is the one who starts talking to her. And he's trying to be very respectful. Unlike season 1 Skanky, season 2 Skanky really is trying to be respectful to everybody. He's got his hands clasped in front of him. And he's like, well, where is your husband? And she's like, New York. He's in New York on business. And he's like, listen, we know he's not in New York. But she is absolutely not being receptive to Skanky's questioning. So Nick and Skanky
This
do
well
this
choreographed
super
rotation.
super choreographed rotation, and they do this almost every time they question somebody, which is Skanky starts, and then as soon as it gets tough or as soon as they stonewall, they do like a honeypot switch.
They're
He
like,
backs
okay,
up.
let's let the handsome one talk now.
All right, fine, here's my hot partner. And so they let Skanky back up, and Nick walks in to ask her some questions, but it doesn't actually work this time because Nick doesn't employ any vampire powers or anything. He's just trying to use his charm to get her to answer questions. And she's like, fuck you, I'm not going to answer. Yes, he's in New York on business. No, I'm not going to give you anything else. I'm going to protect my family, the family.
Right. She still thinks that her and David are on the good side with the family.
Right.
She hasn't realized that the tables have turned.
Yeah. But they leave because this isn't working out. And so they end up going outside, and Nick senses something outside the house. He does his like commune with the cosmos moment, and Skanky comes out, and Skanky's like, you good? And Nick's like, yep, all good, fine. So they drive back to the precinct, and Skanky's going to go in, and he's like, I'm going to have to go in. Like, this is going to suck, Rick. I have to go talk to Cohen. And Nick's like, correction, you're going to have to talk to Cohen because there's something I need to go check out. Skanky, I got to go around.
Except they don't use the code word at all this episode.
Skanky's like, oh, hell no, you are not letting me go in there and talking to Cohen all by myself.
And Nick's like, hey, you owe me one for Sunday.
Yeah, remember how I told you that was free just because I was your partner? I lied like a liar. I lied like a rug, Skanky. I'm calling in your favor. It's due. You got to go talk to Cohen on your own because I got shit I got to do.
Cohen is going to become a little drill sergeant after this development. Hello? You coming?
You go ahead. There's something I need to check out.
Wait. There's something you got to check out? And you want me to go in there and tell the captain we've got nothing? No way. No. I'm not letting you off this one. You come with me.
You owe me one, remember, for Sunday?
So he's driving off to go do whatever it was. He's going around, right? Skanky went in to talk to Cohen, and Nick is going around. And we get some Nightcrawler. And it is LaCroix. And LaCroix is using Skanky's words from earlier.
What is a father?
What is a father? He's like, is a father altruistic? Nope. He's like, every parent wants
He even
something.
pretends that there's a collar. He's like,
Yeah.
well, a collar? This one says a father's altruistic.
Lies. He's like, nope, every parent
Nick,
wants something.
I've been watching you.
He's like, nothing is free. He's like, what about your father? Did he promise to take care of you? Did he keep his promise? Oh, the delicious melodrama of every line that LaCroix gets.
Yep.
And I don't know who else could have delivered this. I don't know who you could put in this role and make them LaCroix besides Nigel Bennett. But Nick goes back to the house, and this time he really does go around because David is like lurking in the bushes behind his own house and has been for the amount of time that it took Nick and Skanky to drive back to the precinct and for Nick to come back alone. And he has a brief chat with him because he's like, Johnny Lamar, the guy at tracksuit, he thought this was about taking down the family, but David doesn't actually want to betray his family. He just wants to leave. And he's like, I just want to start over. I grew up with killing, but I don't want to be a killer. And Nick is like, ding, ding, ding. You have pressed the correct key.
I know exactly what that's like. Oh my gosh.
Oh, now Nick's all in. He's like, what
and
do
then
you
the
need?
guy keeps, there's
What
a
do you need?
flashback.
Yeah.
And then after the flashback, this guy keeps talking, but Nick is still in the flashback.
And Nick is just staring at him.
So we get like the outside experience again
Of what it's like when Nick has flashback.
when Nick is in a flashback.
You know when you're talking to somebody and they're looking at you, but they're clearly not listening, and so you just keep talking because you're trying to figure out if they're going to tune back in or not, and then you kind of trail off. That's what's happening to poor David. Because what Nick is remembering is what led up to him shipping himself from Paris over to Toronto. And it was LaCroix catches him walking out.
With some herbs.
And he's like, what do you have? And Nick's like, nothing. And he's like, Nick, what do you have? And so he takes it out of his jacket and hands it to him. And it's like Chinese medicine, like herbs and tonics. He's like, rare tonics, difficult to find herbs. And he's like,
ancient Chinese elixirs.
are you trying to find a cure again? And Nick's like, maybe.
Stop it.
Stop it, Dad. Get the fuck out of my business. But this actually gets a little physical because LaCroix is like, God damn it, Nicholas. And he ends up pushing him up against the wall and like slapping him around a little.
This has nothing to do with you. Of course it's to do with me. I gave you life. I gave you power. I gave you my eternal protection. And you want to go back? Can you imagine how that makes me feel? You will stop this pathetic search for a cure. You make a fool of yourself and a fool of me. You're my creature, Nicholas. Made in my image.
Then I am a monster.
Which we have not seen, like, I mean, we've seen him be emotionally abusive. We've seen him be emotionally manipulative. We've seen him use coercive control, which is considered a form of abuse in every country except the United States. You're welcome. And we've seen him do a lot of very abusive things, but not a lot of physically abusive things. And this is one of the first time we see LaCroix being really violent with Nicholas. And it's a little bit jarring. But I think it's supposed to be an expression of just how frustrating Nicholas is for LaCroix. Because we get a lot of how frustrating LaCroix is to Nick, but we don't get a ton of just how much that makes LaCroix feel like unaccepted. Like he's not good enough for Nick. Because this gift, what he considers a gift that he gave Nick won't stop trying to give it back. And he actually tells him, can you imagine how this makes me feel watching you do this for hundreds of years? He's like, I made you in my image. And Nick goes, yeah, then I'm a monster.
Good job, Nick.
Yeah, good job, Nick. LaCroix's like, oh, what did you say to me? Can you say that again? I mean, it's a very heated altercation that they have in this flashback. And I think that's why he has like lag, because David's still talking to him and Nick's just like, hang on a minute. I had like a PTSD flashback. I just need like a second. But all in all, David is really speaking Nick's love language. I want to get away. I don't want to be a killer. My dad is overbearing. Or my grandfather in this case, great grandfather. My father figure is overbearing and won't let me go. And I have to go to...
And keeps pursuing me when I'm trying to leave.
Yeah, and I have made it clear I don't want to be like him, but he just won't accept that I don't want to be like him. And Nick is like, check, check, check. Yes. Do you want to come back to my place?
So I jokingly said, I think Nick's like, we need to get you into protective custody. And he's like, no, you won't be able to protect me. And I was like, we just need to have him stay at Nick's place.
Yeah. Matt's like, he's going to end up at Nick's place. And I was like, I didn't say anything.
And so...
Spoiler-free life.
Which we find out, like, in the next scene.
Yeah, pretty much immediately.
Oh, yeah, he's at my place.
Yeah.
So, in my head, the way this went, or my speculation on how it went in Nick's head was, David's a very pretty man. He should stay at my place.
Yeah, that'd be fine. I can make this work. He can use the satin fuck sheets. It's perfectly fine. And he actually goes to talk to Constantine, great granddaddy Constantine, about like, hey, dude, you gotta let him go. He doesn't want you. He doesn't want this life. And if you were a real father, you would sacrifice anything to make him feel happy. Oh, no. He tells that to Skanky. Doesn't he tell that to Skanky?
Not quite yet.
Not quite yet.
They're back at the station after he talks to Elder Constantine.
Yeah.
He's like, Skanky, this is what a father is.
He's like, you still filling out that questionnaire? Because I got the line for you. And he gives him the line.
Ooh, she took that well, I thought. You still have your gun and your badge, don't you? You know, she is right. He's not safe out there.
He wouldn't be any safer in here. Are you still doing that questionnaire on fatherhood?
Shh. Yeah, why?
A father is someone who will sacrifice everything to give his child a better life than he had.
That is great. A father is someone who will... Now, what's the rest of it? Sacrifice anything. Nick, what's...
And then Skanky's like, great, Nick. Wait, can you repeat the last bit?
But Nick's already gone.
Yeah, but Nick's already gone. And he goes to talk to Natalie because Natalie needed another scene in this episode.
Was there anything that Elder Constantine said to Nick that was noteworthy? He's kind of like, oh, you haven't aged a day. You know, for us, the age,
yeah,
this is my version of immortality.
He's like, you get to be
making
young
sure this
forever.
gets passed down.
Yeah, I get to be immortal by making sure my family stays alive. You're just immortal. I don't get that luxury. And Nick's like, well, if you were a real dad, you would give it up. You'd give it up so he could be happy. You wouldn't try to force him into doing this. And of course, as usual, he's a little bit talking about David, but he's also a little bit talking about Nick. But he goes and talks to Natalie. And I love this scene too, because he's kind of hashing it out with Natalie. And she's like, well, we know he's not going to be safe anywhere. So like, where could he possibly be? And Nick's like, oh, he's safe. He's fine. And Natalie's like, Nick, where is David? And he's like, well, I kind of took him to my house. And she's like,
like it. She's been trying to salt Thomas Constantine's tail ever since I was an intern.
Well, getting David killed isn't going to help.
No, and you did what you thought was right. You cut him loose.
Well, not exactly.
What do you mean, not exact? Where is he?
My place.
Nick, you're a cop. You can't get involved in... Okay, all right. Why?
Because I know how powerful his family is. The captain's right. He's not going to get away without some help. It's dangerous. It's not that easy. Even when they're trying to kill you, they're still your family.
Youch. That sounds like an epitaph. Was it really that hard for you? Leaving them?
Parts of it.
she's like, okay. She does the, I have done this look. I have a lot of emotions right now, but me lashing out at you about what I think is a very, very stupid decision is not helpful. So let me just take a moment. And she goes, okay. Why is he at your place, Nicholas? And he's like, well, because he'll be safe there. Like everybody else has been safe there when they come to my place. Like nobody has.
I got the skylight fixed.
I got the skylight fixed from the last time I took home a mob witness and the mob tried to break in and kill her. I got it fixed. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. And then we actually get a little bit of LaCroix again. And this is when we get one of my favorite lines from him. Mm-hmm. And it's, even when they're trying to kill you, they're still family. Oh, Nick says that.
Yes.
Nick says that. He's like, even when they're trying to kill you, they're still family. And you can just imagine Natalie's look of horror. Like, what?
Are you okay?
That's not true. My God. No wonder you want to be human. But then we get our flashback and we get Jeanette. And we've seen Jeanette, but we haven't gotten you know what? They had not spent any money on Jeanette's costume budget in the last.
It's like they have to save it
time.
up. We have to get 2 or 3 episodes with almost no Jeanette.
Yeah.
So that they can build up the costume budget.
Yeah.
So then they can say, okay, now we're going to have an episode worthy of Jeanette.
Yeah.
Wardrobe wise.
Right. Because we get some good ones in this episode. 4. We get 4 different outfits because she's wearing a flapper outfit in this one. And this is when he comes back and she's like, did LaCroix find you? He was super pissed. And he's like, yeah, he found me and it went exactly like you think it would. And Jeanette's like, okay, well, here's this really conveniently large box that I have over here in the corner. Hop in it. I'm going to call my friend Constantine. I'll have you out of here in an hour. And he's like,
he knows about us. He helps us relocate.
yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I got you.
Yeah.
But she flips on him fast.
I know.
when
Well,
LaCroix shows up.
we don't get that yet. But right now it really feels like a solidarity thing. Like Jeanette is in the middle, right? She's in the middle of this perpetual conflict. She has no problems with Nick. She really just kind of accepts him for who he is. She's not amazed. She's not in love with his lifestyle, but it's okay. She's not mad about it. And she's likes LaCroix and she likes having fun with LaCroix.
Right. I think personality-wise, LaCroix and Jeanette are very similar
Yeah.
in their desires, their moral alignments.
Yeah. Their moral alignments.
Their
Yes.
their self-talk is very similar.
Yeah.
And so LaCroix has a lot more control.
Yeah.
I don't know, influence. LaCroix has a lot more influence, like deep into Jeanette's psyche.
Yeah, well, I think
Because
Jeanette
it's-
is like conflict averse. She's spent so much time watching the conflict between Nick and LaCroix. She just doesn't want conflict. She doesn't want Nick to get hurt, but she also doesn't want LaCroix to be mad.
Right. Because
She's
she
in
has
this-
to live with LaCroix.
She's in this really weird in-between place between the two of them. And we go back to the present because that all happens in the past. We go back to the present and Nick is trying to persuade the wife. Like he's got David squared away. He's safe. And now he's got to get the wife on board with leaving.
Right.
Because he's going to get David out. But David doesn't want to leave if his family's not going to go. Because the whole point of this was to get his family out so his son didn't have to go through the same stuff that he's going through. He doesn't want his son hunted like a madman over all around town and end up having to shelter in some dude's weird loft apartment. He's amazingly trusting of Nick. Nick is like, well, I'm a cop. And he's like, oh, thank God you're a cop.
Yeah, like the Constantine family doesn't own half of the department.
Yeah, I mean, okay. But at first the wife is very much in the Constantine. She's like, no, the family takes care of us. You know, Don Constantine takes care of us. I don't want to leave. You know, I'm all about the family. And Nick is like, okay, so is it family if they try to kill you? And she's like, I don't know. But the most notable part.
Before he goes, is the attack on Nick's apartment before or after he talks?
I think he talks to the wife twice. All I really remember is the decorative fish. I'm going to be honest with you. Yes, is we're at like a dining room table, which I'm almost certain is a glass dining room table, and there is a decorative fish.
Yeah, like almost a
centerpiece.
foot tall.
Yes,
Like 18 inches
it's
long.
a very big fish, and I was like, "Is that a decorative fish?" And we had to rewind it and see the decorative fish because after this is when Nick is at his house with David, and he's like, "Look, I don't know if your wife's gonna want to go or not. Like, you might have to just leave her and like get her later." And he's like, "I'm not gonna go. Like, I need my wife to come with me." And Nick is like, I don't know if she's going to come. And then they hear the doorbell ring. And this is when he goes over.
They hear a knock.
Oh, they hear a knock.
And
yeah.
David's like, wait.
I thought she was going to take the elevator.
I thought she was going to have to ring the bell to get up. And Nick's kind of like, yeah. And why did the noise come from the staircase and not the
Because you know he doesn't have a lock on
elevator.
the staircase. He only has a code on the elevator, the quote elevator, yes. So he goes over and opens the door. And I have to say, he handles this a lot better than the last time. He has acquired some chill along with all of his vests because he gets shot a lot, which means RIP this vest.
A whole bunch.
This vest.
Yeah.
Don't worry, the vests aren't going anywhere, but this vest is. And he gets shot a whole bunch. And he does like a grab the guy, spin around, almost exclusively so that David can see his face when he's all vamped out, and then turn back and like throw the guy down the stairwell. They didn't kill anybody because they immediately go back to Don Constantine and they're like,
he fucking strong guy.
yeah, he's a big fucking dude. Like that didn't go how I thought it was going to go. But at least he doesn't growl at David or anything. When he turns around, his face is back to Nick, and David's like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. My grandfather told me.
Grandpappy told me about something like
He
that.
told me there was people like you out there. And he's like, yeah, a lot of his deals can't face the light of day. I can't face the light of day. We overlap. And I love that they're talking. I actually like this scene because his apartment got pretty shot up. So they shot up his blinds. So there's these like shafts of sunlight coming in through the blinds. And he's fixing them. David is fixing them with pieces of duct tape. And they're having this conversation and Nick's kind of reclining on his mantelpiece. But he realizes that David may be not safe here. So he takes him to the second most safe place he can possibly imagine.
The Raven.
The Raven?
Oh, no. No, get him out of here. You can't just keep dragging people in here every time you don't know what else to do.
Go get yourself a drink. Relax. It's just until I can set up his disappearance. He won't be staying long.
He's not staying at all. I have to do business in this town.
And I love Jeanette. She's like, no,
no way.
No, you got to go. And Nick is like, come on, baby, just this one time. And she's like, oh my God, not again. She just goes with it because what is she going to do? She can't. He literally is just like, I hear you saying no, but we're here. He's going to stay here. I'll be back for him. Don't worry about it. And she's wearing her like velour dress, the one that she was wearing in Bad Blood.
Yeah.
And in, she was wearing it in Bad Blood, and I think she wears it in A Fate Worse Than Death, too. But she has, like, her mini Death Cloud hairstyle and this, like, floor-length red velour dress that she wears. And Nick is like, yeah, he's going to stay here. I hear you trying to voice an opinion, but I'll be back for him. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be cool. He's just going to hang out here for a little while.
He's like, David, go get a drink.
Like, David, go have a good time. Dance with some ladies. I'll be back. And then we go back into a flashback. And it's because Nick literally has pulled another string. So he pulls the string to get Skanky to talk to Cohen about the fact that Constantine's missing. And then he gets Jeanette to keep David because he's like, hey, you remember that one time that I tried to flee for my life and you told LaCroix where I was going? Remember that one, Jeanette? Because we go back and it's Nick. It's not Nick because Nick is gone. Nick's been shipped off, but it's Jeanette and LaCroix. And LaCroix's like,
where is he, Jeanette?
Where did he go? And Jeanette's like, oh, he's been such a bother lately. Maybe we should get a new one. And
I thought this justifies the LaCroix's obsession with Nick so much better than anything else.
Yeah.
By framing it as this like child this fixation.
Yeah, this very petulant, very petty. I don't want a new one. I want that one.
I like that one.
I liked that one, and I want it back.
C'est grâce, oubliez-le. We can get a new one.
I don't want a new one. I like that one. Comment vous a-t-il dit, Jeanette?
And so Jeanette's like, fine, I shipped him to Constantine. And she's got this cool dress on. Is this the one with the red velvet, like, drape dress that she's wearing? Yeah, it is. Because she's wearing velour in the present and she's wearing velvet in the past. Because she's got this,
the flapper dress?
The flapper dress is the first time we talked to
right.
her. This one she's wearing like this. It's like only secured at the shoulders. And it's this, like, long drapey velvet dress. Just really beautiful. But he's cashing in some guilt debt all over the place. And he has also, I should note, put on a backup vest. Thank God he
changed his vest after he got shot up.
He had another khaki vest.
He's made this mistake before where he got shot and he kept wearing the purple jacket.
Yeah.
But he learned his lesson from that.
Right.
So he changed his vest.
Right. And I think this might actually be the part where Nick goes to talk to Don Constantine because in this scene, all I could see was the extremely vaginal fireplace behind Nick's head. It's just like I don't know. It was distracting. Okay. Cause he's like yelling at him basically. And Don is like, well, it doesn't really matter what he wants. I don't care what he wants. He's my only choice. Who am I supposed to turn this over to? What am I supposed to do?
Right. Like when I lost my sons, I thought I couldn't last another 25 years waiting for my grandsons to grow up.
Yeah.
And then both my grandsons died, and I had to do another 25 years waiting for David to grow up.
Yeah.
I can't do another 25 years. Like,
Right.
at this point, if it's the 20s when Nick comes to Constantine from Paris,
Right.
then it's been 50 years. Or I guess he would have waited like 20 years for his sons to grow up.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
He's like in his 90s
Right.
at this point, is what I'm trying to get at.
Right. And Nick's like, well, sorry, but he doesn't want to be it. And I can tell you from experience, no matter how hard you try to force him, he's never going to want to do it. And he's going to look for every chance to get out of it.
Right. Like, you're going to make him do this, but he doesn't want to do it. What do you think is going to happen when you're gone?
Right. Right. So Don Constantine goes to see LaCroix because he's like, fine, you're not the only one who can call in a favor. And he comes in and he's like, LaCroix, you look the same. I love LaCroix's response.
LaCroix's on the radio,
Yeah, and he's
monologuing,
like,
and here
he's like,
comes
well,
Constantine.
He's like, well, you look like shit. Time's a bitch, isn't it? And he's like, okay, I'm cashing in my favor. Because then we go back to the flashback and we see dapper as fuck LaCroix sitting on this
the same
desk.
office that
Yeah.
Nick got let out of the box in.
Yeah, and he's like, look, I know Nick came through here, and either you helped him leave because you've got his watch, and I gave it to him, and I expected him to keep that forever. And the fact that you have it either means he gave it to you or you killed him. And let me tell you, I'm not going to be real happy if you killed him. And the most notable part about this flashback for me is, because it's the 90s and we're working in a square filming format, in order to get kind of more motion and really more real estate on the screen, we often film at like a slightly off parallel angle. So the filming is always on a diagonal almost, where the camera is tilted slightly.
When you need two people close together in the frame.
Yeah, you really have to kind of angle the camera in order just to get the real estate that you needed to get what felt like a wide shot while you're working at a square format.
Yeah.
And when LaCroix stands up from the desk, they shift the angle completely. So we go from like a 30-degree angle to a negative 30-degree angle. We like tilt it. And it's so like, what just happened in the middle of and it happens when he stands up.
Right.
So it ends up feeling like we're completely changing our perspective on the scene when he stands up.
Well, and I think part of it may be like a visual metaphor for the power dynamic in this conversation just shifted.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely what they're getting at. The life, the way that Don Constantine viewed life shifted a little bit.
Because Don's in the position of power at the beginning when LaCroix is sitting down.
Right.
And then LaCroix stands up and LaCroix's like, you thought
Yeah.
you were the most dangerous thing in the room.
Yeah.
But you're wrong.
You're wrong. LaCroix is always the most dangerous thing in the room. But then we go back to the present, and LaCroix's like, okay, welcome. And you know what I think is funny about this scene? There's a CERK coffee cup on the desk in front of LaCroix. What's in the coffee cup? Or is it just there? Does he just share that desk? It's like a white, like a promotional looking cup with CERK radio on it. Oh no, I just thought that was really
I didn't notice
interesting.
the cup. I saw it was on like the
Yeah, it's on the
soundboard.
soundboard too. And he's like, okay, you're calling in your favor. What would you like? But just remember, I do tend to take things literally. So if you ask me to hunt him down to kill him, I'm going to do it. And this is the part where Nick is talking to his wife at David's house, and there's the decorative fish. And I think what's getting us mixed up is there is just a lot of like small vignettes, conversational vignettes throughout this entire episode. It's like Nick talking to Skanky, Skanky talking to somebody else, and then Nick talking to Natalie, Nick talking to the wife, Nick talking to...
My thoughts on why there's so many scene shifts is, one, Nick has to keep moving to a lot of different places.
Yeah.
And those transitions provide a lot of openings for Nick to be driving alone, listening to the Nightcrawler.
Yes, absolutely. But we just have a lot of, we are on the move this whole episode. And Skanky disappears halfway through the episode because he's working on Sunday for the vast majority of it, which we established because Natalie comes in and she's like, "Oh, where's Skanky? Cohen's looking for him." And Nick's like, "Oh, it's Sunday and I'm covering for him.
I am him
today." And Natalie's like, "Oh, well, nobody's covering for me and I have a hungry cat at home." And so she goes to leave. So that's our timestamp. This is why Skanky's not here because it's Sunday now. And we just do so much. And I think that's why we keep getting like, is this when there was the decorative fish or was that before? Is that when he talked to Don Constantine? Because I feel like, and not only that, but the present and the past mirror each other so closely. We've got Nick talking to Constantine in the past, Nick talking to Constantine in the present, LaCroix talking to Constantine in the past, LaCroix talking to present Constantine, Jeanette and Nick in the past, Jeanette. It's almost 1-to-1.
Right.
And so it ends up kind of making the whole episode it actually feels fairly cohesive, I think, because we're not getting what feels like a unrelated flashback.
Right.
It feels
they
directly related.
Each other.
Yeah, we're working through the past as we're working through the present all at the same time. And it works really well. I think that's why this episode feels really cohesive. It felt very engaging and felt very, very entertaining. In fact, it was so good. My daughter sat down and watched it with us and we got done. She goes, "Can we watch another episode of Forever Night?" And Matt goes, "The indoctrination has begun." Yeah, you're welcome. But this is when he confronts her about the fact that, how did they know that David was at my apartment? Karen, her name is Karen, which the subtitle spelled Karin. So she has a weird spelling a different spelling of Karen. So, but this is Karen, literally. It's a Karen. She's like, I just told him where he was so they could go pick him up and bring him back. And he's like, "No, like they tried to kill me. I'm sending you a bill for my vest, okay?
Right.
Because they shot me.
They broke into my apartment and then they just opened up with automatic guns.
Yeah.
And me and your husband were there.
Yeah.
And they didn't care.
No.
Like, they were actively trying to
there
take
to kill
him out.
us. Yeah. So at this point, lady, you got to choose Constantine's family or your own. What you gonna do?
And we leave it a little ambiguous.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we go back to the past again because it's when LaCroix and Jeanette find Nicholas in Los Angeles. And he's like coming down the stairs and he sees LaCroix and he's like, "Fuck." And he looks at Jeanette and Jeanette's like, sorry. So sorry. But of course she's turned it out. She's wearing like a fur coat and a fur hat and she just looks lovely. And so maybe she was trying to bribe him with like, "Isn't it nice to see me?" And this is
soften the blow a little bit.
Yeah. And this is when LaCroix's like, "Nick, you didn't really think you were going to get away." And Nick's like, "I kind of fucking did. I hope to have at least like a decade before you found me, at least. And then we go back to the present because Nick has walked into the station and LaCroix is there too. And that's what I mean.
At his desk.
It's a very mirrored 1-to-1 thing because LaCroix is literally just sitting at his desk in the precinct.
Both of these narrative threads are tied together by LaCroix just
being LaCroix.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is when he picks up Skanky's questionnaire and he's like, "What is a father? What does our friend Skanky say?" And he's like, "A father provides love, discipline, guidance, protection, support." And Nick goes, "He left out freedom." And LaCroix says, so would I.
What do you want?
Do I have to want anything? Let's talk about families, Nicholas. That seems to be what's on everyone's mind. What is a father? A father is the man who made you what you are. And like it or not, Nicholas, I am the only father that you've got. And as a father, I must say I'm very disappointed in you, sticking your nose in where it's not wanted.
Constantine came to you.
It's a matter of an old debt. I want you to stay out of this. I think it child owes his father that much courtesy.
What about what a father owes his child? It works both ways, you know.
Let's see what your friend Skanky has to say about that, shall we? A father provides love, discipline, guidance, protection, and support. That's not bad.
You left out freedom.
So would I. Well, let's stop eating.
Fucking love LaCroix, and this is like my favorite version of LaCroix.
LaCroix knows Nick so well
Yeah,
that he can anticipate like Nick's critique of what he just said
yeah,
and have a witty
yeah. He's
ready.
Yeah, a witty riposte. Yes, he's just like fired right back. Yeah, so would I.
So
Freedom's overrated.
Earlier when Nick's like all fired up because he talked to Elder Constantine and he's like, I couldn't convince him to let his great grandson go, and he's like, Skanky, you want to know what a father is? Here, it's someone who would like
sacrifice anything for their child to have a better
to make
life.
sure that they had a better life than them. And so when Skanky's like this, it was so we know, okay, Nick has a very clear idea of what a father is.
Yeah.
And I thought, I also am perceive myself to be a better father than my father was. And I thought, okay, maybe Nick and I both have a clear idea of what a father should be because we're familiar with the shape of the whole.
Yes.
Of what we lacked growing up. And so Nick had this father figure.
Yeah.
But there's this lack of what he needed as a father figure.
Yeah.
And so he's like, that's what I wanted my father to be.
Right.
Or like, in this case, LaCroix. But I didn't get it.
Right.
So I'm going to make sure that I am that kind of person.
Right. Yes. And
then LaCroix comes in and he's like, no, here's what a father does.
Yeah. And he's like, and like it or not, I'm the closest thing you've got to a dad. And I think of myself as your father. And I have to say, you're pretty much a disappointment. And he's like, if you're hiding David, I will find him. And if you don't give him up, I will kill you. And then I will find him. And we both know who's going to win if it comes down to you and me duking it out. And Nick is like, listen, why don't you do for David what you would never do for me and just let him go? Why don't you just let him go? And LaCroix is like, yeah, okay. I don't know. He doesn't really respond, but he ends up saying like.
Made him think a little bit.
Because then he's talking to Don Constantine and he's like, listen.
But Constantine's like, is it done?
Yeah, is it done? Are you going to find him? And he's like, Constantine.
And if I told you it was?
He's like, you know what? Children always make it all about themselves. They never ask, what about us? Don't you think it's selfish to not think about the cost of what it means to be a father? How come I'm so unappreciated? I am such an amazing dad. Look at all the things that I have done for him and you have done for David. And then look what they just throw it back in our faces. But do you really want him killed?
He's like, what do you want?
Like, what is our end goal here?
And so we're left with that.
Yeah. What are you trying to achieve? Because if you kill him, you achieve nothing. And at this point, the only way you're going to get him back is if you kill him. Trust me, I have experience in this. And then we go to David and Nick at like the port. They're getting ready to flee. They're waiting for his family to show up. David's like, I can't leave if Karen doesn't come. But then Karen shows up and we have this brief moment of like, joyful
we're all
reunion.
together.
And then the Rolls Royce pulls up.
Oh no.
And Constantine gets out.
And LaCroix gets out kind of awkwardly.
Yeah.
Like, he kind of awkwardly gets out of the car. I think he was probably very cramped in that car.
Yeah.
And then he like kind of walks too close to the car and almost clips the front corner with his leg. So he's like step
Well, we're
around anyway.
supposed to be looking at Constantine at this point.
Yeah.
And David and LaCroix, after they arrive, David is talking to the Don Constantine because Constantine's like, listen, I've buried enough sons for a lifetime. I don't want this to end like this. I wanted you to take over the family, but I get it. This is actually a really hopeful ending.
So in my head, the reason LaCroix was so like awkward in his movement is because he's so unfamiliar with this scenario.
Yes.
Where he did a good thing.
He's like, I did a good deed. I feel a little dirty.
Because Nick asked him to.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay, I don't know how to feel about this. Like, Nick asked me to like help out a little bit and like think about things from his perspective or whatever that means. And so he's just got this whole narrative going in his head.
Yeah, it's a little cognitive dissonance from LaCroix's point of view because he did it. It served the end goal, but it wasn't the most ruthless way of going about it.
Like, who really learned a lesson here? Nobody learned a lesson from this whole thing.
LaCroix kind of did. He figured out a loophole, basically, to make it so that Nick got what he wanted and Constantine got what he wanted.
Win-win.
Yeah, everybody won in the end. Kind of.
And I think
except
LaCroix must have justified it to himself as, okay, this will keep me closer to Nicola.
Yeah.
So I can, he'll be more receptive to me.
Right. I'm going to throw him a fucking bone here. That's what he did. Because, of course, LaCroix turned Constantine into a vampire.
So now Constantine doesn't have to worry about who's going to take over the business when he dies.
Right. Because he's not going to die.
Which I expected Nick to like look at Constantine and realize, oh no.
Shit.
It's a he's turned him into a vampire, but Nick doesn't notice right away. He doesn't know until LaCroix's like,
personally, I think he's never looked better.
He could live another 100 years. And Nick's like, oh no, you didn't.
But yeah, and that's basically where it ends.
The only person who lost here, I guess, two people lost in this whole narrative. Jimmy or Johnny. Because he died.
Yeah.
And Cohen.
Yeah, because Cohen doesn't get the Constantines. Because she actually yells at Nick for not bringing David in. She's like, why didn't you bring him in? And
you had him?
He's like, why? He didn't want to come in. There were no outstanding warrants. There was no reason for me to arrest him. He's not wanted for anything. I literally had no legitimate reason to force him to come in. And Cohen's like, thanks for the legal lesson, legal. Like, I don't give a shit. I wanted you to bring David in. And Nick's like, sorry, I didn't do it. He just wants to leave, Cohen. And Cohen's like, I don't give a shit if he wants to leave. I want to bring down the family.
I have a mission here. This is what I want to happen.
But this means that if Don Constantine ever gets caught and imprisoned, they're going to have he literally made the Constantine family basically invincible because you can't catch Constantine now. He's just going to hypnotize his way out of every arrest situation.
Right. I have this vision of like him turning like his lieutenants into vampires.
Yeah. This is actually a larger problem than it at first seems. I don't know.
Which LaCroix was involved.
That's tomorrow Nick's problem. Present Nick is just excited for the fact that David gets to leave and live his own life. And he's going to LA. Don Constantine's like, I'm sending you to LA. I've heard it's a great place to start over. They need help to rebuild.
Okay, so we had no idea what was going on here. So
I thought it might have been this.
We looked it up. The 1992 Los Angeles riots, also called the Rodney King riots, the 1992 Los Angeles uprising, or Sa-i-gu in Korean.
Yeah.
And unrest began in April after a jury acquitted 4 police officers. Police brutality.
Yeah.
And the beating of Rodney King.
Yep.
And it was recorded on video.
Yeah.
And then the video got out.
Sounds familiar.
Yes, this is a pattern in America.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of property damage from those riots. So that's probably what he's referencing.
Yeah, that they need help to rebuild. I was like, what? In my mind, immediately, headcanon became, this is a post-apocalyptic world where Toronto is the last bastion of civilization. And that's why there's so many vampires in Toronto, because they're all gathering there.
Right. But this would have aired in 94, and it would have been very, still in everybody's mind.
I'm sorry. I like my interpretation better. This is a post-apocalyptic world.
Which is why Nick left Chicago.
Yeah.
To go to Toronto.
Yeah, because America has fallen. And and Canada's like the last place where you can like go and have civilization. And that's why everybody's there. That's why LaCroix is there. That's why there's so many vampires in Toronto. Mm-hmm. But then we end up at the station because we have to have our little bit of wrap up. And it's Skanky coming back, but Skanky arriving late. And Nick is like, I haven't learned any kind of a lesson. And he's like, oh, where's my questionnaire? Because, of course, LaCroix took his questionnaire. And then he ends up quoting Shakespeare on the Nightcrawler. And I think it's Hamlet. I think he's quoting Hamlet. Yeah.
And so while Nick is driving in the car, listening, and LaCroix starts quoting some Shakespeare.
Right.
And then...
Which it turns out is also Nick's love language, because he just goes straight to the radio station. And he's like, you're not forgiven. We aren't best friends or anything.
I'm not coming back.
But thank you for finding a way around that. And he gives him back the watch that he had paid with at the beginning. Yeah.
That he was supposed to hold on to until he died.
Right. And then LaCroix ends with, if you love someone, let them go. And they'll learn their lessons and come back. And I can wait because I have all the time in the world.
I know you'll come back.
And
Nicola.
I know you'll come back.
Happy Father's Day. I'm not coming back to you. I just wanted to say thank you.
They say if you love someone, let them go. If they're really yours, they will learn their lessons and return. You will come back, Nicholas. I can wait. I have all the time in the world.
And that's the end of it. I love that episode so much. I think because we get so much LaCroix in it, and we really get LaCroix. I love a good bromance. I am a sucker. I like romance just fine. Obviously, I have an entire separate stream where we read romance novels and talk about them. But there is nothing like a good best friend story arc. Especially like an enemies to best friends story arc.
Well, there's a... All right, so I think the Nick LaCroix dynamic works so well because it is kind of like a mythological trope. There's this, I don't know, archetype. There's a mythological story pattern of the like dark brother or hostile twin or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're always at odds with each other, but they have this deep connection, so they never get too far apart. They're always, the other is always so important to them that if they were like, you don't even matter to me, I'll just go off and do my own thing, and you won't even be a consideration in my day-to-day life. But they're both so important to each other.
Yeah, I don't want another one. I want that one.
Right.
Yeah.
And even Nick is, partly because of the trauma, is still like preoccupied with LaCroix. LaCroix always is living in his head rent-free.
Right.
And so they're tied together so deeply, and they're fairly antagonistic to each other, but neither of them can really get to the point where they would destroy the other.
Right.
so they're in this like eternal battle,
Push and pull
relationship with each other. And so it's executed so well in this show. And anytime you have like a mythological story pattern, it's going to work.
Right.
Because it's just part of human nature that this is how certain kinds of people will interact,
right,
regardless of the time frame or the society or anything.
Right. It's a story archetype that's been honed over millennia to be attractive and interesting and engaging.
Right. And mythological stories are so they resonate so much because they're about the John Vervaeke calls it the perennial problems.
Yeah.
Which is just the problems that humans face no matter where or when or who.
Right.
You're going to face these kinds of problems just because of human nature.
Yes.
And so these stories survive because they have valuable lessons in them.
Right. Yeah.
And this was like such a deep dive on the like hostile dark brother dynamic between Nick and LaCroix.
Yeah, I honestly don't think this show works without LaCroix.
No.
I think even in season 1, when LaCroix is quote unquote deceased, he's in so many of the flashbacks.
Right. I think he's in pretty much every episode.
He's still a present character.
Yeah.
And even when he's not in an episode, well, the episodes that he's not in work, but they aren't the lightning in a bottle that we get when we see him or hear him or have him in a flashback. And I think part of what makes the first season work is the Jeanette play, like having the interplay with Jeanette kind of acts as his like dark other,
right?
His more liberated vampire side. And then we kind of take that up a notch in season 2 by introducing LaCroix back as a present time character. And we make him far less one-note villain and far more jaded father who thought he did something good for his son and will accept no criticism from his son about how he feels about it. He's like, it was an amazing gift. I just need to get you to realize that.
Right. And the characters can't be, and if you make one-dimensional characters, they're not going to stand up.
Yeah, they just don't. They're like paper. They just blow away.
Right.
You know?
You need some depth.
Yeah.
To have a tripod.
Right. And I definitely know parents who are waiting for their child to get old enough. Like if I just hit a certain age, it's all going to resolve itself and we're going to be better. Everything's going to be fine.
They'll learn it all on their own.
They'll just figure it all out. Except this is a very extended version of that. If I can literally just keep up the pressure long enough, eventually he's going to come back to me and we're going to be able to be the
family that I've been envisioning.
The family that I wanted.
Centuries.
He'll be the dutiful, devoted son that I can mold in my image that I have wanted. And I honestly think if Nicholas had been receptive to LaCroix for longer, if he had been moldable in the way that LaCroix wanted him to be moldable, LaCroix would have gotten bored and let him go centuries ago. I think the appeal for him is the challenge.
Right. And the mythological aspect of these two opposing, like deeply connected characters is that they complement each other.
Right.
They each can see things and think about things in ways that the other can't.
Yeah.
And by them constantly butting heads, they're exposing a little more of the unseen reality to each other.
Right.
Which that's how you grow.
Right.
You can't grow by exploring the space that you already are familiar with.
Yeah.
You have to be exposed, sometimes violently, to the unknown.
Yeah.
Because that, what you most need is going to be found in the place that you're least willing to look.
Right. And I think LaCroix is smart enough to know that Nicholas is what keeps him from being stagnant.
Yes.
Because
they each keep even if they keep up this dynamic for another 1,000 years, LaCroix will still be engaged.
Yeah.
Because at their core, they are completely different people.
Right.
And LaCroix is never going to be able to fully, I don't know, corrupt, infect, and convert Nick
Right.
to be a mirror of himself.
Yeah, any victory will be a temporary victory.
And Nick is never going to fully redeem LaCroix.
Right. But that's what makes it work. That's what makes it interesting. And I think that's what makes it interesting to LaCroix, too.
Yes.
I'm not sure that Nick is super excited about being LaCroix's, like, cattle prod through eternity. But here we are. Right. And I definitely think that the appeal for LaCroix is the conflict, because we know he turns other vampires. I feel like he turns or has turned a vampire in just about every episode we've seen him in, and they in no way have the same relationship with him.
Right.
Sometimes he forgets he did it. He's like, did I change that guy? I think I did. I think.
I thought that'd be funny, and I'd come back and check on that in a little while.
You are right. Yes, I think I did turn somebody. As opposed to the obsession that he has with Nick. And I really like that. I feel like if he had spread that out, if he had been equally obsessed with everyone that he turned, I wouldn't care as much about this relationship. But it makes me curious about what the appeal is. And I think it's because LaCroix likes Nick. And he wants Nick to like him.
Right. He sees how idealistic Nick is and how, I don't know, discerning Nick is in who he attaches himself to. And he wants the approval of this highly discerning, moral person to be accepting of LaCroix.
Yeah.
And LaCroix wants to earn that, except he's trying to earn it by, like, undermining Nick at every turn. He wants...
It's a very maladaptive way to try to earn.
It's like, I'm going to, like, earn your affection by...
Subverting your expectation?
By, like, undermining your morals to the point that your moral bar drops below me.
Right.
And then suddenly I fit into, like, your approval group.
Yeah, that's what we saw in Undue Process, where he poked the citizen group into, he killed a woman, let Nick take the blame for it. Actually encouraged Nick to take the blame for it. Mm-hmm. And then watched as he murdered all of the people that had tried to kill him. And then he's like, see, Nick, we're not that different. We can be friends. You want to go get a drink? And Nick's like, God damn it, LaCroix. It's really LaCroix trying to be like, that's why I don't think I like the flashbacks where LaCroix doesn't feel like he's attempting a connection. It just feels like he's punishing Nicholas. Like the flashback in Faithful Followers, where it's really just about, like, well, how easily manipulated is Nick? Can somebody else manipulate him like I manipulate him? Or is it really a victory that I've continuously been able to fuck with him for, like, centuries and centuries? And it really just turns into like a, haha, I want to bet. Well, I'm not interested in that, LaCroix. I'm not interested. That to me doesn't feel like the same level of nuance that we get in this episode, where he's like, okay, I have to fulfill an obligation, but I also want to kind of get on Nick's good side. I think I can do a little bit of both. I think I can turn this guy into a vampire. Nick will be happy.
Right, and through the challenge of wanting to kind of exceed Nick's expectations of him, he has to do something that he's uncomfortable with.
Right.
Which is solving a problem without killing somebody.
Well, technically, he still got to kill Don Constantine.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But
creative problem solving.
He has to, grow himself into this area that he's not familiar with or comfortable with.
Right.
Which that establishes, like, I don't know, this mythological dynamic between them.
Yeah. Very much so. All right. Well, I haven't said it in a while, but we are on Instagram. Did you miss it? Did you miss it? Yeah. We're on Instagram as Strange and Beautiful Network. And now that we have different streams for our different things, it's a good place to go to keep up with all that we're doing, because I don't have different Instagrams. I just put everything on the Strange and Beautiful Network because it's just me. Unless you guys want to go join Patreon, and then I can hire somebody to be our media coordinator, in which case I'm sure the quality will go up. It can't get worse. I'm doing my best over here because like they just introduced Threads and I looked at it and was immediately overwhelmed. Like, I'm supposed to keep up with all of this. Look at all that text. What are people talking about? What? So I'm on Threads, but I don't know how long I'm going to be on Threads. It was more of like I wanted Instagram to quit bugging me about it. Mm-hmm. But our website is up and working. I have the submission form on there. You can find all of our podcasts. I am so close to merch. We are like a week away from merch. I just need the place that I put the merchandise up to finish vetting our shop.
Probably by the time this episode comes out.
Oh, because it's coming out tomorrow. I don't know. But we'll find out. It's soon. It's so soon. And when I have it, I'm going to post a link on Instagram. So that's a good place to go. Also, our monthly book club. Our first monthly book club episode will be this month, the last Tuesday of the month, and we're reading Babel in Arcane History.
By R.F. Kuang.
And we will be talking about that and posting that episode on Tuesday, the last Tuesday of the month. But if you want to talk with us about it throughout the month, you just have to join the minimum $5 Patreon tier. So, just saying, we've got a Patreon. If you like what you're listening to, please go support us. We actually have the $1 tier, which is the lowest you can have. It doesn't get you anything except our undying gratitude, but
well, you get the Patreon exclusive content.
Yes, you do get access to the Patreon, which we just had a patron watch party where we watched Demon Under Glass, which is a low budget vampire movie. I think
the lowest of low.
The lowest of lows. It was like $2.99 to buy it. And so I'm pretty sure someone somewhere in the world got like a 10-cent royalty check this month. So you're welcome. You're welcome, 10-cent royalty check person who got the 10 cents.
Our gift to you.
Our gift to you for the 2 hours of enjoyment that we got out of this. I don't even know what. I mean,
yeah.
The patron who joined us was like, "What did I just watch?" It's like, you're so welcome. If you ever wanted to know how vampires pee, I'm just gonna put it out there. It's a good one for you.
Or if vampires
pee. Yes, Demon Under Glass
answers that question for you.
It really does. And that pretty much wraps it up. So remember.
Oh, I know. I was just thinking if I had a good segue.
You have a dark brother. Your archetypal other. He even looks like you. The dark twin. Is that what you called it?
Yeah. The dark twin. I'm the good twin, by the way.
Yeah.
So remember, sometimes the strangest things are the most beautiful too.
So be who you are and love what you love. Until next time, friends.
Bye.
Bye.